Hi, my name is Jodi Carter, and I'm a CPA, but probably not the kind of accountant that you normally come across. I'm not so focused on deadlines and taxes. I'm much more focused on my relationships with my clients. And that's how my program, Financial Insight Training, came to be. See, over the years, I was paying attention to the questions that people were asking me, whether it was about buying a new home or wanting to decide if they were leasing or buying a car. And they were coming to me for financial information, wanting me to help them make those choices. But I always thought there's so much more to these choices, and they don't just want to look at the numbers. What they really want is some guidance in how to make financial choices. Now, you might be wondering why there's a financial workshop included in this wellness program. There's one reason that probably isn't too far of a leap that you could think of, which is that our financial well being definitely supports our physical health. It supports us in everything that we're up to in our lives. And it makes a real difference if we're feeling comfortable with our finances to pursue all the things that matter to us. But there's another subtle reason why a financial workshop belongs in a wellness day. And that's the one that I really want to point out to you. You see, the way that we think about our bodies is very similar to the way that we relate to money. If you think about it, you know that you have a very private, personal relationship with your body. You also have what you may not realize is a very private and personal relationship with your finances. And we each have this very special relationship with how we relate to money. In Financial Insight Training, I have a series of principles. There's actually 14 of them, but today I'm going to sprinkle in just a few to help you get a good understanding of some of the real core concepts that lead us to financial insight and financial success. Fit principle number one: every individual has a deeply rooted, unique, and intimate relationship with finances. This is really true for everybody. And if you think about it, you'll start to realize that no one thinks about money quite the way you do. I want to start by talking about why I use the phrase deeply rooted. You see, your relationship with money goes way back. If you take a moment and think about your earliest money memory, something is going to come to mind. What is the first time that you became aware of money, that it made an impression on you? Just to give you an example, I worked with someone who shared with me that the first memory that he had of money was a family ski trip. And his memory was that his parents spent the entire trip arguing about how to spend money. Well, we started to take that thread into his life, and we realized that every time he wanted to spend money, there was stress involved. He had taken this memory and brought it into his way of relating to money, such that as an adult, he was still relating to money like the 7-year-old on the ski trip. We all do it. This is not unique to him. Every single person I work with tells me some story. I'd love for you to give some thought to yours. Maybe try to think through, what is the thread to today? If it's a memory about saving, what kind of saver are you today and how do you relate to money? If it's something about getting your allowance and going to spend it, how do you relate to spending and how can you see that thread coming through to today? Now, why is this important? It's so important that we start to grow up that conversation because you don't want to be relating to money the way you did when you were 5, 6, or 7. As an adult, this information really needs our attention. And now I'm going to introduce you to fit principle number 3, which is going to explain why this is so important. Every choice is a financial choice. Now, that sentence may seem a little provocative. So let me just add to it that while every choice is a financial choice, it's not only a financial choice. Does that make it a little softer for you? Does that make you feel a little bit more comfortable? Well, let's think about, though, why it's so important that we really hone in on this principle that every choice is a financial choice. You see, we live inside of this collective pretense that our choices are not financial or that it's not politically correct to say that they are. And when I say every choice, I mean everything from brushing your teeth in the morning to the relationship that you're in. Now, brushing your teeth in the morning, if you're thinking, I didn't realize that was a financial choice, feel free to check with your dentist. I bet they will tell you that that is absolutely a financial choice and a pretty significant one if you choose not to do it. And when you think about your relationship, listen, I'm all for love. I want you to have things in common and really enjoy your partner. But if you don't believe that it's a financial choice on the way in, you're unfortunately going to find out that it's a financial choice on the way out. That's why divorce is all about money. So I want to give you a moment to really think about how finances are showing up in your life. I'm going to do a little demonstration with you. Take a look at my face. I want you to find a freckle on my face. Find one? Spoiler alert. I don't have freckles on my face. What you're seeing is some dirt on your screen. Now, why would I do that exercise? You see, what you're looking at on your screen, let's think about that as your life and your financial choices. But that dirt that's on your screen, you know, when you turn your phone off and there's fingerprints and smudges and spots, and you're thinking, how do I look at this all day and not see this? That's similar to how we look at our finances and our life. When you're engaged in making choices in your life, if you are not thinking about your finances, you're not getting a really clear picture. So now every time you walk past a window and you're looking outside, I want you to pause and shift your eyes back to that glass, just as a little reminder of this analogy about your finances and your life. So now we know that our finances are important, and we know that we're seeing them through a filter that may not be the most pristine thing that we could be looking through. Why is this so important? Why is it that you've made it this far in your life without anyone ever pointing this out before? Here's the problem. We don't have financial education. Even if you had some basic how to keep track of your finances in school, you really didn't learn the most important thing about how to make choices. This education just doesn't exist. That's why I created financial insight training. I thought it was so important to help people make choices. There are some common myths about how we approach finances. Most people believe if I just had more money, everything would be better. Here's the problem: more money is not the answer. And then some people think if I could just stop spending, if I could spend less, that would make things better. That also isn't the answer. So let me explain why both of those things are not true. With all of the people that I've worked with through decades of being a CPA, I can tell you that the amount of money that people make is not an indicator of financial success. Whether someone has significant income or modest income, that is not what's producing good results. There are people who make large sums of money and live their whole lives in debt. There are also people with very modest incomes who are having everything they want in life. So if that's not what it's about, let's turn to spending. They must be doing something right with their spending. And so everyone thinks, I just have to spend less. Let me create a budget and live by it. First, I just want to tell you, don't create a budget. They don't work. It's the biggest epic fail that ever existed. It's a set of rules that I promise you will not follow. No one does. So then, if it's not about just less spending, why? Why couldn't I just spend less? Well, how would you make those decisions? How would you go about deciding what to spend less on? You see, just saying I'll spend less isn't going to get you anywhere. It may cause you to feel punished. It may feel you to cause that you can't have things that you want in life. And the whole point of living our best lives is to make sure that we have the things that matter most to us. So if it's not more income and it's not less spending, what are the key elements to financial success? This is FIT principle number 4, and it's a formula. Financial insight equals values plus data. It's just those two things. Being able to achieve financial success requires financial insight. And what makes up financial insight is just these two things: your values, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and a good knowledge of your data. Now, for anyone that heard data and just reached to click off of this program, please wait, stay with me. I totally get it. For some people, thinking about math, thinking about numbers, thinking about tracking their finances is the worst idea ever suggested. But here's the thing, that's because we treat it like this horrible, daunting task. So, why would it be daunting? Well, if you don't look at it often, if you only look at it once a year or when a major question is coming up, that's a lot of data. But think about how many transactions you really have inside of a day. Some days you may have zero. Most days you probably have 1 to 5. On a super busy day, I don't know, maybe 10. But for most people, that 1 to 5 number, it's pretty accurate for the number of transactions that they had in a day. Well, I know it doesn't take me long to spend money. So, how long could it take me to record it? If it only takes you a minute to spend it, a minute or less to record it. So, we're talking about 1 to 5 minutes per day. And listen, we're all busy, but if this is about creating your best life and having financial success, isn't it worth 1 to 5 minutes a day? Just to give you a little context for this, you don't only brush your teeth the day before you go to the dentist, right? You brush every single day. I'm back to the dentist again because it's such a good analogy. It really makes sense to think about your finances kind of like financial flossing. Let me just make sure to tidy this up every day. Then what happens is you start to accumulate information, and it's the consistency that brings you the information that you need to make great financial choices. So now you have a period of time where you've been recording data and making sure that you are keeping track of the way that you're spending, of the income that's coming in, how you're saving, how you're monitoring any debt that's being paid down. And you pay attention to this part of your life in a different way. So it's a few minutes a day, and then it gets you great information. Well, what do I mean by meaningful information? For some people, you may think that just having the big items, your rent or your mortgage and your car payment, is enough information. But if you find at the end of the month you're saying to yourself, where did the money go? Then you don't have enough details. So we want to get into the categories. Now, I want to give you an example of what makes finances meaningful. So, if I was going to give you today $1,800, I'm not giving you $1,800. Don't look under your chair. Don't watch for an email with a gift card. I'm not giving it to you. But I just want you to think, if I did give you $1,800, what would you do with it? I'll tell you that most of the time when I ask this question, I get responses like, I would put it in my savings. I would plan a trip. I would pay down some debt. Those are the kinds of things that people think about for $1,800. But let's look at $1,800 another way. $1,800 is also the equivalent of $150 a month. So if you think of it as an extra $150 a month, doesn't that change how you're thinking about it? Maybe now that becomes how much you want to spend on your health and wellness. Maybe there's some lessons that you've always wanted to take. Maybe there's a class that's been calling to you. Maybe it's toward a car payment. Maybe it's the amount that you've been really wanting to put in savings for something special that's coming up or for long term. $150 a month. It's that same $1,800. What if it was $35 a week? Because that's also approximately $1,800. At $35 a week, doesn't that shift the way you're thinking about it? Is that maybe some time out with friends or a loved one? Is that maybe some gifts that you've been wanting to buy? Maybe it's a spa treatment to enhance your wellness. Now, I want you to consider this. What about $5 a day? Yeah, $5 a day adds up to about $1,800 a year. Now, here's what's really interesting to me. Depending on where you live, of course, $5 a day can be a little bit different. There are certain places in the US where $5 a day might get you breakfast, and there are certain places where it will only get you a coffee. But what I want you to realize is that when I offer people $1,800 for the year, no one ever replies to me saying, that's my coffee budget for the year. That's going to be my breakfast on my way to work. I never get that response. So if you look at this perspective of this same $1,800 from different points of view, you really can see how important it is to keep track of our finances. Because that thing that you thought of for $1,800, that you think maybe you can't have, it might already be available to you with just a little bit more mindfulness in terms of how you are directing your money. Now, here's the other thing that I want to point out about this conversation. Every single person that is hearing this conversation had different answers to these questions. Your answers are not my answers, and they're not going to be your partner's answers. They're not going to be your siblings' answers. They're not going to be your friends' answers. Because remember, this is a very unique relationship that you have with money. And so that brings us to the other side of the financial insight equation, values. How do we figure out what matters most to us? Now, it seems like that should be pretty easy. We should just be able to rattle off, here are the things that matter most to me. But the reason that it's hard is because there's so much information coming at us all the time. Let's just talk about an average day. You wake up in the morning, you're with your loved ones, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, these people, these are the most important thing to me, whether it's family or significant other, or maybe you wake up alone and you're thinking your independence is the most important thing to you. And then you get ready to go to the gym, and you get to the gym and you're in this great environment, working out with your community, and you're thinking, wow, health and wellness, this is the most important thing. And you know what? Community is absolutely the most important thing. And then you head to work and you're with some coworkers and you work on a great project and you're all feeling really inspired. And someone says, wow, work is so important. Having a great career really matters to me. And you're thinking, yeah, that really is the most important thing. And then you go to meet some friends to go out for the evening. And you're out with these people and you're having a great time. And someone says, oh, leisure time and being together, this is the most important thing. And then you get into this really great conversation about education and sending your kids to college or the foundation that you got when you were growing up. And you're all saying, yep, education is the most important thing. And by the way, someone else starts to talk about their great vacation. And then you start talking about how vacation and time off, that is the most important thing. And you get home and you sit down and you relax and you say, wow, I really need this time for myself. Self-care is the most important thing. Do you see? It's bombarding us. And that doesn't even address all of the shoulds that we are living inside of. Don't forget that the things that are most important to you should be the things that your parents think are most important, that your children think are most important, that your siblings, your coworkers, your friends all think are most important. See, it's just too much. But inside of each of us are some core values, the things that really call to us. And that's where our differences show up. And that's why dealing with money is so unique. That's why there can't be these cookie cutter solutions. Whenever I listen to these so-called financial gurus that are out in the world, and I hear them talk about percentages of your income that should go to certain things, I just cringe. Because here's the thing, it's different for everybody. What I would spend on my home might be different than what you would spend on your home. It doesn't mean that home is any less important. It just means that we value it differently. And that's something really important to think about. Someone that has a family feels differently than someone that doesn't. Someone that loves to travel, that loves theater, is going to feel differently than someone that is really focused on things like appearance. All of these things are completely valid. There is nothing wrong with what matters most to you. The only challenge is figuring out what that is. In financial insight training, I spend time working with the FIT members to make sure that they are clear on their values. We go through a values exercise in that program that gets people to the point where they have 5 values, because we want you to be well-rounded. I don't want you to just pick one thing because, as I said, there's so many possibilities. We want to make sure that all of the things that matter to you most are included. And so people go through and they pick their 5 values through this exercise. Well, I'm making that exercise available to all of you. There will be 5 people who get to win the values workshop for free in our giveaways. And I will make sure that anyone that has signed up for the giveaways, you'll be eligible for one of the 5 free values exercise workshop slots that I'm offering. And everyone else will get that information emailed to them. I hope to see you. So if you found this part of the conversation particularly interesting, make sure to check out the Financial Insight Training Values Workshop. It's important to relate this values conversation back to why we're here today. Being clear about your values is going to have a really big impact on how you take this kickstart for the new year and turn it into exactly what you want for your life in terms of health and wellness. You see, when you are clear about what values this is speaking to for you, it will become a priority. Now, what happens when we have priorities? We struggle with exactly two things: time and money. So I want to introduce you here to my favorite little guys, the time and money buddies. How cute is that? I just love this visual. Look at the time and money buddies holding hands. Imagine them skipping down the street together. You see, anywhere that there's a challenge with money, it can be resolved with time. This is something that I talk about in financial insight training in detail because we need to learn how to leverage time. If you have debt and you're feeling so much pressure about getting that debt paid off, take a breath. Time is what you need. And we want to look at how we use time and money. Sometimes people come to me and they say, I need to get this debt paid off urgently. I'm not going to start saving until my debt is paid off. I'm not doing anything. I'm not signing up for the gym. I'm not doing any of the other things I want to do until this debt is paid off. I'm here to tell you that is no one's best life. In order to balance the things that matter most to you, your values, you need to be able to look at time and money in a way that keeps you moving forward. So if you think about time and money, or you're trying to make a decision and you're feeling really stressed about it, you'll notice that these time and money buddies are suddenly wrestling on the floor. We don't want them wrestling. We want to bring them back to holding hands and skipping down the street. This is what's so important about giving consideration to this. I want you to be able to make your decisions about your health and wellness for 2021 and for every year that follows this year based on your values. When you prioritize self-care or fitness or health, whichever word calls to you, that's going to help you make those choices. When you go back and you think about that $150 a month or $35 a week, if you can section off that amount of money rather than thinking of it as this big bucket cost, it's going to make all the difference for you. What's important here is that we start to understand that what causes financial success is our ability to have financial insight, to look at things from a new perspective, to shift your mind, to make sure that you are moving money in the direction that matters most. So how will you know that you have financial success? You see, it's not true that financial success is some distant time in the future, or that it is some specific dollar amount that you have when you retire or when you die. That is not financial success. Financial success happens every single day of your life, or financial strain is in its place. If you notice that when you think about money, there's a lot of negative feelings, that's what we want to address. We want to start shifting that to positive feelings. I want to round out our conversation with FIT principle number 5. Feeling ease, stability, confidence, and freedom is the measure of financial success. When people start taking financial insight training, a 3-month program, they start reporting back to me after the first month that they are feeling ease, confidence, freedom, and stability. In 1 month, I'm telling you, they have not changed $1 of their finances. I haven't even let them make any adjustments yet. At 1 month in, we're still talking about our relationship with money. We don't start to dig into data until the 2nd month. So they haven't made any changes, but they've completely shifted their relationship to money. That's the measure of success that I want you to have. So every time you are feeling some stress about money, I want you to remember this conversation. Also, another little spoiler alert, you can't unhear anything that I said today. People tell me all the time after just one of these conversations, they are thinking about money differently. You need to focus on this for your entire life. And if you're going to do that, let's make sure it's in a positive way. You see, part of that pretense that we talked about at the beginning of this conversation is that we're so busy pretending that our finances are not part of every choice that we make, that we have all of this stress that we can't even identify. I want you to heighten your awareness and make sure that every step of the way, you are taking control of this very important part of your life. It's going to make everything else work so much better. You can have everything you want once you define what it is that you truly want. Financial Insight Training is our 3-month online program. So, how it works is that there's an online curriculum. It's me, it's some slides, it's a conversation, and then there's coursework that you submit, and we give you personal feedback to that coursework. And then 3 times over those 3 months, we do a live Q&A. Now listen, I know you're still going to be holding on to some of those feelings of privacy about money, and I completely respect that. So when we are on a live Q&A call, your questions will be submitted in advance, and you will have an opportunity to say, yes, I would love to speak to Jodi live and be coached about this in the community, or I would like to submit this question and have it answered without sharing my name. I never ask anyone to share personal financial information because no one knows better than me how very personal it is. But what the power of a community can bring to the conversations, what you'll learn from other people's questions, and from this shared experience that we have with money makes all the difference. So here's the special offer. The cost of Financial Insight Training is normally $150 a month for 3 months. But we are taking a third off of that price just for the Stronger for Good community. We're so happy that you stepped up and wanted to take care of your wellness this year. We really want to support that. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm always so grateful to have the opportunity to share my view of financial insight. I hope that it becomes your view. I would love to get to know you and be able to help you with this part of your wellness. If you are interested in financial insight training, please make sure to go to the partner page. I would love to have the opportunity to work with you and help you on this part of your wellness journey.